And creating a strong business and building a better world are not conflicting goals. They are both essential ingredients for long-term success. So these two quotes caught my eye, so I thought I'll begin my presentation with it. CSR, I think since the morning you've been hearing about CSR, so I'll really not go into the definition of CSR, but it has somehow brought in companies to feel responsible for the areas around them and is gradually changing the quality of life of our people. Given the enormous tug towards CSR, the question for corporations is not whether to engage in CSR, but what the best way forward is for crafting CSR programs. The question today is not whether we should do CSR or not. How can we best reach out to people and see that we can make an impact on society? I'll give you a board's view on CSR programs. It shapes a firm's attitude towards social responsibility. Today, in every corporate, it's the entire board which is involved in seeing how CSR programs can be run successfully. We are mandated, as per the corporate governance norms, to have a CSR committee of the board, where we have independent directors, we have to have a governance nominee. So you see the importance that has been given to it. We ensure strategic alignment with the CSR initiatives. It ensures authentic and firm commitment and an engagement of all key stakeholders. In fact, I will recall, while we were doing these socio-economic development programs in ONGC, I will come to the ones in EIL where I am working on hands-on now. There was a village, you must have all heard a village called Chanderi. And that caught our eye, where we realized that that art was going extinct. That craft was going extinct. And the women of that village, they were only thriving on what they were getting out of that. And it was at that point of time that ONGC stepped in. And we gave them that support so that they could their products could be utilized by us. We use them as corporate mementos, we use them as and a lot of distribution was done of that, and finally we could revive that. So that entire village which was going extinct. But how do we now, the challenges here are of crafting a strategy. What are the different motivators for it? The individuals involved in CSR have varying degrees of influence over a broad range of programs. And you will agree that these CSR projects do have a positive impact on community. They support public value outcomes. They support being an employer of choice, encourages both professional and personal development, and enhances relationship within and outside the organization. Now, very often this question comes in, how do you measure CSR? It's not easy to measure the entire impact of the projects, but the activities payoff is a function of how a company identifies and prioritizes its stakeholders and their respective goals, generates and pursues CSR options that are congruent with respect to its stakeholders' perception and preferences, measures the effectiveness of CSR activities undertaken to pursue such goals, and also measures the efficiency in use of resources allocated to such CSR activities. We can measure them quantitatively and qualitatively, subjectively and objectively. They can be short-term projects and they can be long-term projects. We have some very short-term projects where in an old age home, you have provided some facilities, they need some furniture items or something, so that is also a CSR project. And there are long-term skill development, or you are doing some infrastructure building. So these are two varying types of outputs. They can be intended or unintended outputs, short-term and long-term, depend on different interests borne by each stakeholder. The qualitative metrics play a more holistic role in decision making process better than numbers in capturing human emotions and subjective factors. It's not always easy to have numbers, it's not a numbers game. And quantitative measures alone may lead to a bias towards financial outcomes. There's this model, the AGREE model, which enables measurement and balancing the effects over time of CSR activities on different stakeholders. The model refers to the audience of the CSR activity, the goals of the stakeholders, the resources used to achieve stakeholder goals, effectiveness with which stakeholders' goals are realized, and efficiency of use of resources deployed to realize such goals. Now, when we go in for this measurement of effectiveness, these CSR interventions are embedded with inherent challenges, you'll agree. Now, timing of measurement. Any CSR intervention takes time to trickle down, so the results don't happen overnight. And that's where sometimes we face a problem, where people are impatient that you spend so much, but where are the results? Availability of baseline data, and I think Professor Mishra's team has worked a lot on impact assessment and on baseline data, so they would vouch for this, how important it is. CSR projects must be undertaken with an analysis of this baseline data, which will help them in defining the objectives of the project. It was about a year ago that we did these RO plants for some villages in Karnataka. So there, when we got this request from the state government and I sent my team, we realized that those villages never had potable water. I mean, we are in cities where so easily we get a mineral water bottle wherever we are. We don't realize that down there are thousands of people who don't have drinking water. And from miles and miles, those women are bringing water on their head. So we thought we'll give those RO plants. So there were about 10 of them that we gave, if I'm not wrong, in those villages near around, one per village. Before this, we had gone to Kanchipuram. And that was where our first experience of this water and sanitation, where we had given an RO plant. And it was our own JV who did the entire construction of it. Kanchipuram was totally born with these waterborne diseases at that point of time. And our effort, as any other public sector, is to see that we can give facilities in areas around where we are working. So since we had projects around Chennai, our regional construction manager, along with the state government authorities, brought this project to us. We found it interesting. And we did go for the inauguration. My chairman and myself had gone for the inauguration. This was about 3 years back. And I tell you, the villagers there were literally flocking and touching our feet. Because for them, it was like they were going to, a dream come true. But then we said, and that's what we did in Karnataka also, we said, water should not come so easily to you that you start wasting it. So we made those ATMs for water, where they're going to pay a very, very nominal amount for every bucket of water that they take. I mean, that was the village panchayat which came. So we had to work very closely with the village panchayat, this agency who worked with us. And it was very successful. And now we are going ahead with this for almost about another 20 villages in that very area. And similarly, we had provided for 95 schools, or was it 97 schools in Tamil Nadu, we had given these RO plants a little larger than the ones which you have at home. And the feedback that we got was that the absenteeism from school had reduced. So that's one way of measuring it. So when you measure it, there could be different ways of measuring it. One, as I gave you an example, is where it helps in identification of projects in a particular thrust area, particular location. And it shows its results where for a health camp checkup, the number of patients reporting at primary health center before and after the series of interventions may be a parameter. That could be one parameter. Because we have also done a number of health checkup programs, and we've been doing a lot of eye camps. And we saw, there were in Dibrugarh when we did an eye camp, there were almost 5,000 people who turned up. And there were over 150 to 200 cataract operations. So the quality of life of those people changed. For informal education project, the school enrollment before and after intervention may be a parameter. So these are indirect ways in which you can measure. For a rural development project, migrations from rural to urban areas can be considered as an indicator. And for skill development projects, the reduction in unemployed may be a parameter. So these could be the indirect parameters by which you can gauge and measure the impact of the projects that we are doing. So these are some broad outlines on how the key elements for measurements, the preparing of data, collection, and then analysis of that data. Now coming to EIL, I think since I joined late, I'll not, and you're running out of time, I'm not going to speak longer. These are the areas of focus which we've been having, and more or less most of the public sectors do focus on this: education, healthcare, drinking water sanitation, vocational training, skill training, upliftment of underprivileged, and rural electrification. We have been associating with this public sector company under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment called ARMCO. You may have heard of it, Artificial Limb Manufacturing Corporation. And recently, in the last 4-5 months, we've had about 4 camps. In fact, I've just got back day before yesterday from a camp in Dibrugarh. And there, what they've done is that we do a camp where they identify out of thousands of people that who are the ones who are really needy for these assistive devices, like these high-end motorized tricycles and crutches and rollators and hearing aids and various other things. And in each of them, in Bhubaneswar, it was over 200 people. We had in Bolangir another 180 people who we had given these assistive devices, and in Paradeep there were 195, and we were fortunate that the Honorable Prime Minister, when he was dedicating the Paradeep refinery to the nation, from his hands we could get 3 or 4 such handed over. And now in Bolangir, also in Dibrugarh, we had 190 people for whom we have given, and we are going into another contract with them, an MOU with LMCO for larger camps. Skill development, we have really focused a lot on skill development, especially the country's focus today is on that. And over the last 1.5 years, about 8,000 youth from backward classes and women have been given skill training. We reached out, the reach out programs have been to as far as the remote villages of Orissa, where we have given women skill training in goatry, in poultry, so that they are able to have their livelihood. That's a livelihood training for them. Rural electrification, we have done large projects in areas like Kargil and villages of Orissa and various other places where they were not having any electrification at all, and there were hundreds of villages who got that benefit from these CSR projects. So at the end of the day, when one introspects, one sees that what has the country gained from it. Each of us, our effort is a drop in the ocean, but altogether, when each one of us is contributing in these directions, it's making an impact to the entire country. And there will be a day when we will be able to say, I'm sure, that in the way we are now proceeding, that our villages and our people, our downtrodden people, they will also be able to look up. Because a lot of support is required by them, and that is being provided by most of the organizations. Now when we look ahead, what is it that we really need? Definitely, getting a CSR project cleared is not an easy proposition. So there has to be a change in the mindset of the CFOs also, to see that where are we hitting and what are we doing. Developing the metrics that focus on integrating the financial effects of the environment, social and governance programs with the rest of the company's finances. Embed CSR in the company's culture. We are trying to do that. It has to come automatically. It's not something that's distinct and on one side which has to be done because the government wants it to be done or because corporate governance wants. It's something which has to happen from within the organization. And corporate social responsibility professionals can help by learning to communicate their value. So I'll close with this quote which says corporate social responsibility is a hard-edged business decision, not because it is a nice thing to do or because people are forcing us to do it, but because it is good for our business. That focus needs to be there. And let me tell you, each company, at least I can talk about the public sector, I'm sure private sector would be doing it, has their own transparent way of doing it. Within our company, we have a due diligence program where the financial due diligence happens, the legal due diligence happens, site visit happens. We have a format in which the proposal has to come in that format. Then we have a council headed by our executive directors, about 5-6 of them. Once they clear the proposal, then it comes to us and it goes, then we take it to the board committee. So with this kind of screening which is happening, there's a lot of transparency. And the effort definitely is that we should be able to go to far-reaching. I have a couple of photographs which I could show you of this Ekal Vidyalaya. This is a single teacher school in Assam. So we sponsored 100 schools. So this is basic education being given in villages where there are no schools. This is the floors that we created in an area called Sangam Vihar in Delhi, where now there are 6,000 students studying during the morning shift and 6,000 in the evening. There are 13,000 students studying here. They had no laboratories, they had no ramp, and because of the lack of ramp facility, physically challenged students could not go there. So we created this. This was a cancer detection van that we gave to Cancer Society. So there was some of these, we brought these pictures. Healthcare, it was in Kakinada that we made floors, 3 floors for the government hospital there. And this is the Kanchipuram RO plant that I was talking about in Karnataka. So and so on and so forth. There have been a large number of projects which we've been doing year on year, and we've tried to see how we can reach out to people. Thank you so much. Just close it.
Thank you, ma'am, for talking to us about the role, the challenges, measurement of effectiveness of CSR.